helpful. So let's talk about like the eating too late, and quote unquote, I'm going to put too late in quote, air quotes here. What happens there?
Yeah, what you typically hear is to not eat within 2 hours of bed, because digestion is expensive energy wise. So if your body is focused on digestion and a lot of energy is going towards digestion, there's not going to be, you have a finite amount of energy, so not as much energy is going to be going towards all these other biological systems. You may be able to fall asleep. It might not be an issue of it keeping you awake or indigestion or something like that, but you may not be getting as restorative a sleep as you could be getting because your body is focused on digestion versus all these other processes that have to be put on hold.
Yeah, so I can hear the people out there already going, dude, I have to get in 250 grams of protein a day. I'm up at 6 a.m. and I'm trying to go to bed at 10, right? How the hell am I going to get it all in if I can't eat past 2 hours, or I can't eat past 8 o'clock or whatever? Or I don't want to fast that long. I want to make sure that I need this energy, or I need these calories in my system. And so this would be like for more of the quote unquote athlete. I would also just consider anybody that's working out regularly that quote unquote athlete, and that they have to get these calories in, right? So that might be easier said than done. And in a lot of cases, what we know is there's benefit to making sure that you do put that food in your system before you sleep. And there's some science around like what to do versus what not to do. There's some studies, maybe some science around that. And I'm not well read on a lot of it, but people have heard like, what type of protein should I be putting in late at night versus what or not? I'm not going to, that's splitting hairs, but it's more about like what's happening hormonally and what's happening chemically with regard to the sleep process and, hormone regulation. And so, we going back to the hormone cortisol and that thing being elevated at night when we don't want it to be for whatever the reasons are. Carbohydrate actually helps to switch off cortisol. So it might be helpful. I know, Jeff, you've said that on the show a couple of times just to remind people, it might be helpful to eat some carbohydrate, a little bit, immediately before bed to help bring down within an hour before bedtime in order to start to maybe bring down or shut down that cortisol response.
Like if we have the cortisol curve is messed up, like there's eating protocols for carbohydrates in specific, if you're high at night or high in the morning, low in the morning, like not eating carbs, maybe, getting some caffeine or whatever, right? Trying to spike that cortisol to get your curve back on point. But it's not just about eating carbs. You also have to do the sleeping and all the other stuff to get this thing, the stress and work on the stress, right?
Right.
Lifestyle and all of that. But yeah, it can definitely help you get to sleep and have some good quality sleep.
Yeah, I think that another interesting thing to note here is that if you're on a very low carbohydrate diet, that generally will contribute to a little higher cortisol response. So if you're eating keto, understand that your cortisol response could be off as a result. Now, there's a lot of things, benefits to eating that way for certain people.
For sure.
But just
if you're doing CrossFit though, probably not the best for you. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, if you're, there's a lot of studies behind keto and how it can help people with some certain medical conditions. And obviously, people that are very insulin and, insensitive, it could be a really great place for them to start to kind of work that insulin sensitivity back up. But if you're a person who's trying to sort of always eating that way, just understand, or you're on you're going through a period of time where you're just eating keto for whatever it is, months, weeks, whatever you're doing here, just understand that could be an issue for you, that being that cortisol being high or not coming down, and it could be a disruptor of your sleep.
If you have to cycle your carbs back during keto, there's an issue there, in my opinion.
How do you mean?
So if you're on ketosis, right, you're going to hit a finite point where your body is going to switch back.
Yep.
So they cycle back in carbohydrates, right, to basically... Okay. If you have to do that on a diet, it's probably not the most sustainable. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. And like we're talking about, there is pros and cons and times to use this. And, cancer feeds on, carbohydrates. Sometimes it also feeds on fat. On other times, you have to know what period you're in, right? You're not just keto because I have cancer, right? But there are times and things to use these diets for.
Yeah, without getting too far off track there, just understand that there is a hormonal response to, again, this was going back to originally where I started with this type of diet thing, that people are on, like what's important, what do they need to know about the diet that they've chosen or the eating style that they've chosen. And this could be an issue for you. This has been sort of well documented. So just understand that going in.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, we've covered sleeping dark, we've covered sleeping cold, we've covered sleep schedule, we've covered sleep sanctuary, we just touched on food and caffeine cutoff. The only other tip that I have, I mean, we could talk a little bit more about the supplemental piece. I think there's maybe a few other things to talk about regarding melatonin supplementation. But introducing some type of brown noise can be helpful for people. So like a fan or an air purifier. Personally, I play binaural beats, basically like delta wave sounds, or I don't know if music is the right word for it, but basically kind of like calming sounds that can be helpful in terms of helping calm your mind, calm racing thoughts. Some people have issue, like for example, maybe if you're used to sleeping with the TV on, which is a terrible sleep hygiene habit, but for whatever reason that you're used to sleeping with the TV on, now total silence is very loud. So that could be a way to substitute something that's not disrupting you from the light, and not stimulating your mind. Because if you're if it's a TV show or something playing, like your mind is getting that whatever input is coming in from the TV show. So that's something that I've found helpful, running an air purifier, running these binaural beats that are just quietly, or if you will like ocean sounds or something like that. It's all same idea.
Yeah, if you're like me, like I live in a townhome that's in a very metropolitan, urban, part of the city, and there's always stuff going on. Whether it's sirens, whether it's cars driving by, dogs barking, people walking. I live like on a park, so there's activity out there early in the morning, late at night, whatever else. And like in the summertime or whatever, that activity goes later, because there's more light and it's warmer and whatever else. And so I have to put on background noise to drown out the outside noise, even with the windows closed. And it's interesting, like in the wintertime, like this has been cold. We haven't had much of that. And the way our sleep cycles work, I'm usually up before a lot of activity is going on outside, and I'm asleep after. So a lot of activity, but that's for now until it starts to warm up. But like for people that live in apartments, like this is a really good idea, so that you're not hearing your neighbors, you're not hearing and also like if you're sleeping in a hotel, which I never do well for the first couple of nights I'm there anyways. But you hear the traffic in the hallway, the passing by, the garbage truck, unbeknownst to you, because the dumpster for the hotel is right below your window or whatever else. I mean, all these things add up. And so to have some of this type of background, just call it background music, can be helpful. The other time I use it where I recognize it really helped me is like when I go traveling in the travel van, because depending on where we are, like where we're parked or whatever, like I take the little pill, a little Bose speaker or whatever, and I'll run that exact type of music in the background it's like a little cocoon in there, and drown out the sounds that are going on in the outside. So super important. I love that tip, and I think probably more people should be, you do it for your little babies, right? Why? To keep them from fucking waking up and disturbing your sleep. So why wouldn't you do it for your sleep?